Matt and Miller on Des Moines Sports Station, 1460 KXNO.
It's Matt and Miller here on 1460 KXNO. Before we hand things off to the KXNO Prep Report coming up at 6:05, our sleep docs have stopped on by. It's always fun to catch up with our friends.
Indeed, Dr. Grant joins us. Doc, good to see you again, and we appreciate it as always coming in and shedding some light on sleep apnea. Well, here, let me ask you this. My parents were in town yesterday. I was off yesterday. My parents are both almost 80 years old, late 70s. They're spry, they're young, etc. I'm now in my early 50s. I don't feel it. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, I thought 50 was ancient, right? Mm-hmm. It's changing, isn't it? Or is it just me that we seem to be younger? At least I hope I am.
Sure. Well, first of all, you don't look your age.
Thank you.
I have to say that in my own clinical practice, it's been my opinion that people are taking better care of themselves. I think they're investing in their physical health. People are starting families later in life. People are working for a number of different circumstances well into retirement or past classic retirement age. So there's a lot on the line. There's a lot that they can do to take care of themselves, to live more productive, quality, health-oriented lives.
In terms of how sleep impacts the way somebody feels, let's say someone's 45, 50, 55, and they feel like crap when they get up, or they feel like crap during the day, and they say to themselves, well, you know what? It's just me getting old. Is that something you guys run into, that male macho, I'm fine, but this is just what Mother Nature does to me and what the progression of my life is, and I just suck it up and deal with it? Do you guys run into that type of attitude when you say, hey, you know what? You don't have to feel this way?
Sure. I think that people's perception becomes their reality, and as men age, I think, as a general rule, men can have less insight and awareness into their health than women. Oftentimes, they'll see women coming in their 30s.
We're scared.
Yeah.
well ahead of the curve.
Macho. Yeah.
Saying, I'm tired, I think something's wrong. But for men, it sometimes needs to be a catastrophic event, either poor job performance or a motor vehicle accident, before they'll wake up and say, maybe it's not normal that I'm this tired all the time. Maybe there's a different reality, and I need to get this investigated. And pursuant to that point, you can do this on your own. You don't need to contact your primary care provider for a referral to see me. So in some ways, it would appear there's a built-in impediment at times to seek sleep referrals when patients can be empowered to see our clinic without a direct referral.
Which is good, because I think we should spread that message more, I believe, because the insurance thing scares everybody, and you don't necessarily have to see your doctor to get this to get to you. iowasleep.com is the website, but I think that's a very important message that you put out there, Doc.
Yeah.
My mom, you touched on it a little bit about people having children, starting families later on in life. How have you seen that affect people, in terms of their overall sleep patterns, where somebody starts a family? Like my mom and I were talking last night, and she's in OBGYN, and she's around babies all the time, and she's told me last night that the average age of a woman now that comes in that she sees for their first child, it's on the East Coast in Boston, but I think it's relative to this conversation, in their upper 30s, early 40s, totally normal, where 20 years ago that would be really late in life to have children, and our medicine has improved where that's it's not impossible to get pregnant later on in life, and women want to do their careers and they want to be in a financial place. But does that affect people sleep wise as when they get older and they're starting families? They have got little kids running around, so when they're 50, 60, does that affect things when they're used to being tired and they're 45, 50 and they just say, hey, it's just part of the gig?
There's been some research done on that have looked at kind of older adults, and I'll say people in their 40s and 50s versus younger adults and late adolescents in their early 20s, looking at overall performance. And most of the data shows that there's no clear drop-off in either cognitive skill or executive or motor functioning. But where the difference comes to bear is the younger people will rate their tiredness on a more severe subjective level than older people. So that bespeaks to me that, hey, as I get older, I'm just more tired, but I'm better able to deal with it. I think that there's a lot of benefits to being an older parent, and one of them may be being less prone to sleep deprivation, but the effect is still there.
Let me ask you this: could lack of sleep mask other conditions, or could I perhaps, if I'm not sleeping well and I can't find my car keys, Alzheimer's must be setting in. At least that's what's going through my head. Could it be just sleep apnea, or my sleeping habits are preventing me from being as sharp as I normally would, and I think it's something else when it could be as simple as not getting a proper sleep?
There was a recent New York Times article from the first week of October that looked at the link between obstructive sleep apnea and dementia. And there's a fair number of people out there that either know someone with Alzheimer's dementia, and there's a lot of questions about how can I not have this happen to me, or what can I do as prophylaxis. And this study that's mentioned in the New York Times looks at some of the symptoms of obstructive sleep apnea, specifically poor concentration, difficult with memory, even some mood changes, and how intervening with treatment of their obstructive sleep apnea resolves those issues. And what's even more interesting about this paper was looking at people that have established diagnoses of dementia and comorbid or already existing sleep apnea, that once they get that treated, the trajectory of their decline with their dementia flattens out. That's not to say that it cures it or reverses it, but it's clearly a meaningful intervention. And kind of framing back to, well, how about if I don't have dementia, but I'm suffering from difficulties with concentration and memory, and I have obstructive sleep apnea? I believe it's entirely plausible to have that treatment and have a reversal of the memory problems and better concentration.
Well, let me ask you a question personally about my sleep patterns. And you guys were great. Thank you for dropping off the blindfolds for me, because I wear it every night, and I don't care what it looks like. I sleep. I don't get up in the middle of the night, and I'm out for 8 hours. Why does darkness affect some people? Because it does for me. As long as the lights are out and it's dark, I go to bed around 11:30 every night. I get up around 7:30 in the morning, and I'm not getting up anymore. I'm not waking up. I'm not being disturbed. Why is it like me, where we have light sensitivity, where our body senses light, and boom, we get up?
Well, our eyes are actually part of our brain. The back of our eye is attached directly to our brain, and part of the natural mechanism of how we sleep deals with a substance known as melatonin, and the release of melatonin is intimately tied to the amount of light that the eye sees. Darkness just is almost a precondition or a perfect ideal environment for quality sleep. When the back of our eye or our retina detects light, that sends signals to our central nervous system and can stimulate people. It's often that I'll hear patients come in and be frequently awoken from sleep just by lightning. Not the thunder, but just enough of a clap of lightning,
really?
Bright enough that will wake them up. And that's why we prefer to sleep in dark places.
I do.
Controlling for all other influences in the environment.
I put the blindfold on and see you later. I'm done. It's great. Whether I'm sleeping, and it's also great when I go on the road too, because I can't tell where I am. I put the blindfold on. If I'm at home back in Boston, or I'm in a hotel room, my brain doesn't know where I am. Put the blindfold on, and it's the same thing every night.
Yeah.
iWithSleep.com, 2 locations. Let's finish up where we started earlier. Insurance, referrals. You guys work with all the insurance companies, and in most cases, insurance is going to cover this.
All the major carriers. In fact, I believe that they have a clear investment in taking care of this problem, given what we know now about untreated sleep disorders and obstructive sleep apnea specifically.
Indeed. All right, guys, iWithSleep.com is the website. Dr. Grant, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Coming up next, the KXNO Prep Report, and then we are back tomorrow at 4 o'clock for another edition of Matt and Miller, 1460 KXNO.